You know, humanity has always been at war with these invisible enemies, outbreaks that have completely reshaped our history, our societies, and of course, the very practice of medicine. So today, we're going to break down the playbook, the language, the history lessons, and the strategies that public health experts use to fight back and get ready for whatever's next. Let's dive in.
Okay, first things first, let's clear up some words that get thrown around constantly. We hear epidemic and pandemic all the time, right? But the difference between them is absolutely crucial because it changes the entire global response. So what really separates one from the other?
All right, think of an epidemic as a local wildfire. It's a sudden, really alarming surge in cases of a disease. But, and this is the key part, it's contained within a specific community or region. It's serious, no doubt, and it needs an intense local response, but it hasn't broken out of its geographical box just yet.
Now, a pandemic. That's what happens when that wildfire jumps the fire break. It's an epidemic that has gone global. And the key word here isn't necessarily how deadly the disease is, but how far it is spread. The moment it crosses multiple continents and starts affecting a massive number of people worldwide, we've officially entered pandemic territory.
So it really just boils down to scale. An epidemic is regional. A pandemic is international. And look, this isn't just about picking the right word. It's the trigger that decides whether a local health unit responds or if the entire global health community mobilizes for a fight. It's the difference between calling the local fire department and sounding a worldwide emergency alarm.
Okay, so we know how to classify an outbreak by its scale. But what about its speed? How do scientists actually measure the raw contagiousness of a new virus? Well, it turns out there's a surprisingly simple number that tells us almost everything we need to know. Meet R0, or R0. This is the basic reproduction number. You can just think of it as a disease's virality score. In a population where nobody has immunity, R0 tells you, on average, how many new people a single sick person is going to infect. It's a fundamental number for understanding just what you're up against. And this chart really drives home why R0 is such a game changer. See, if R0 is less than 1, the outbreak just fizzles out on its own. If it's something like the seasonal flu, around 1.3, we can manage it. But then you get something like measles, with an R0 as high as 15. That is a completely different beast, one that requires a massive intervention, like widespread vaccination to even stand a chance. The higher the R0, the faster that fire spreads.
Knowing a disease's R0 is great, but it's pretty useless if you don't even know the disease exists in the first place. So how do we find these new threats lurking in the shadows before they become the next big one? The answer is a global nervous system we call surveillance.
You can think of effective surveillance as detective work on a global scale. Public health officials are basically our planet's smoke alarm. They're tracking things like spikes in fevers. They monitor pharmacy sales, like are a ton of people in one city suddenly buying cough syrup? They confirm lab tests, and they even scour the news for reports of strange health events. It's all about finding that one critical signal buried in all the noise.
But our modern playbook? It wasn't written overnight. Oh no! It was forged in the fire of past catastrophes. Each pandemic, as absolutely devastating as it was, left us with these invaluable lessons that form the very foundation of how we respond today.
We can pretty much trace the evolution of our pandemic response through three huge historical turning points: the Black Death in the 14th century, the Spanish flu in 1918, and the SARS outbreak in 2002. Each one of these forced us to learn and adapt, adding a crucial new tool to our public health toolkit.
The Black Death. In the mid-1300s, this plague killed an estimated 25 million people in Europe alone. That was up to half the entire continent's population. It's a number so huge it's almost impossible to even wrap your head around.
And this is a perfect example of how crisis drives innovation. To fight the plague, the port city of Ragusa, now Dubrovnik, made arriving ships isolate for 40 days, or 40 giorni in Italian. This was the birth of quarantine, the first organized large-scale public health measure, and we still use that very principle today.
Okay, let's fast forward nearly 600 years to 1918. A new flu virus appears in a world that's suddenly way smaller thanks to trains and steamships. The Spanish flu would infect a third of the entire world, killing an estimated 50 million people. It was like a medieval plague moving at modern speeds.
The big lesson from 1918 was the power of what we now call non-pharmaceutical interventions. I mean, in an era with no effective vaccines or antiviral drugs, cities that made people wear masks, closed schools, and banned big gatherings had way lower death rates.
It was proof that simple changes in behavior could save millions of lives.
And then, in 2002, the world faced SARS. Now, it was much smaller in scale, but it was a huge test of our modern systems. And the key to stopping it wasn't just isolation, but a new, aggressive strategy, meticulously tracking down every single person an infected patient had come into contact with. This technique, contact tracing, became a pillar of modern outbreak control.
So, from quarantine to masks to contact tracing, we've built this powerful toolkit over centuries. When a new outbreak is detected today, experts don't just wing it. They follow a clear, systematic playbook designed to get answers and control the spread as fast as humanly possible.
We can boil that whole complex playbook down to 4 core steps. First, confirm the threat is real, get it in the lab. Second, define what a case actually is, and then go find everybody who fits that definition. Third, analyze the data. Who's getting sick, where are they, and when? This is how you find the pattern. And finally, you use that pattern to implement targeted control measures and communicate clearly to the public. It's a methodical, evidence-based approach every time.
All of these lessons, all of these systems, they all lead to one critical activity: preparation. Because the fight against the next pandemic doesn't begin when the first case is found. No, it begins right now, during the quiet times, by building systems that can handle the pressure.
So what does real preparedness actually look like? Well, it's not some document sitting on a shelf. It's having warehouses stocked with PPE. It's having communication plans ready to deploy to stop panic and misinformation. It's building international relationships so that cooperation is just second nature. And, maybe most importantly, it's practicing, running drills and simulations to stress test the entire system. Because a plan you haven't tested, it's really just a theory.
If there's one thing you take away from this long and often tragic history, let it be this: nature is always going to throw new challenges at us, for sure. But our ability to learn, to adapt, and to work together has proven again and again to be our greatest weapon. We are not helpless in this fight.
So we have the hard-won lessons from the past, and we have the sophisticated playbook for the future. The knowledge is there. The tools exist. The only question left, really, is a question of will. As a global community, are we truly ready to use these lessons when that next alarm sounds? That's the thought I'll leave you with.